Welcome to The Coach's Call, a podcast by the Texas High School Coaches Association. In this show, Chris Daly introduces you to coaches across all sports and highlights the positive impact of public schools and high school athletics. Chris will introduce his guest after these messages.
Hello, Coaches Call listeners. This is Joe Martin, Executive Director of Texas High School Coaches Association. Thank you for listening to our new podcast. This is a new adventure for us. Our goal is with this podcast to help spread the stories of all positive things coaches in our great state do for athletes. We also want to keep you updated with all the THSCA initiatives our members can take advantage of. As you go through your season, don't forget to nominate your best athletes for our Super Elite teams. We will have teams from each sport and classification under the UIL umbrella. Also, we need your help recognizing the state's amazing assistant coaches and head coaches. As coaches typically don't have a problem recognizing their athletes, but we struggle when it comes to patting ourselves on the back. So let's change it. Make it a priority to help us recognize the great work that coaches do in the state of Texas. Finally, put February 3 on your calendar right now. Saturday, February the 3rd, we will have our annual regional meetings. This is a great opportunity to gather with area coaches, get THSCA updates, and nominate people for THSCA awards. This is open to all coaches of all sports, and it's the perfect way to network with coaches in your area. So go to THSCA.com to find nomination forms, deadlines, regional meeting sites, and much, much more. We want to thank all of our coaches for the work they do for students every day. We will continue to support you by helping coaches help kids. Thank you.
Have you ever thought about doing your own podcast? It is the absolute best way to grow your brand, spread your message, and build your following. Fresh Media Works can help. We do all the heavy lifting, and you just focus on your message. To find out how easy we can make launching your new podcast, call 713-269-4620 or check us out at freshmediaworks.com.
The interviews in this show are brought to you by the Texas High School Coaches Association. THSCA provides to its more than 26,000 members access to the people, events, tools, and resources to help them thrive in the profession, become trusted leaders in their communities, and live balanced and successful lives. The work and sacrifice coaches do every day is vital to the development and success of student athletes. The THSCA supports these efforts. We fight for every coach, provide them with the connections and resources to improve their lives, and help all student athletes throughout the state enjoy lasting success. The mission statement is simply this: to help and serve Texas high school coaches as they work to help and serve student athletes. Helping coaches help kids. For more information on the THSCA, visit www.thsca.com. All right, everybody, join me in welcoming Coach Kendall Miller to the show. Coach, how are you doing today?
Doing well. How are you guys?
I'm doing great. Obviously I want to talk about what you're doing these days, but I always like to go back and talk about where you grew up and where you discovered sports.
Oh wow! I mean, I'm a Dallas, Texas kid. I'm an East Dallas kid, and it started pretty early for me discovering sports. I'm a coach's kid. My dad coached for 34 years in Dallas at Roosevelt High School and Samuel High School. So I think as far back as I can remember, I was immediately around it and loved it. And like when I was the ball boy on the sidelines and everything as a little one, and it's all me and my family have ever known. I grew up going to high school football games, and basketball games and baseball. So now that happened, I was around that, but it was never just pushed on me. It wasn't something that I had to do, parents do, but it was something that I wanted to. And so obviously I had access to it. But, that started at a young age for me being around sports.
Definitely. And so early on, everybody plays everything, but was football always your sport, or did you go off in some other directions?
I'm definitely one that played everything. I mean, in high school, I played 3 sports. at Skyline High School. I was a football player, basketball player, and baseball player. Coming through high school, I was a bigger football player, and then my senior year, just for a lot of different reasons, took a turn. I ended up going to college on a baseball scholarship. So played baseball in college, but then got back to football as soon as I graduated. So for sure was well-rounded athlete, and I wouldn't change that for the world. And it's something that we encourage now if our kids are able to play more than one sport, just because of the experiences that it gives.
Yeah.
I think it just helps make who you are.
Excellent. And you mentioned, you went into coaching after college. Did you know before you went off to college you were going to be a coach? Yes.
No, I majored. So I knew that I wanted to coach. I was a good math student, and my dad, just for a minute, was like, "Hey, if you want to, don't think that you have to coach to do something to prove something to me." And I'm like, "No, that's not why I want to do it. I know that I want to come out and coach." And so he said, "Okay, if you want to coach," he said, "then major in you're a good math student, major in mathematics, and then that way you can every school in the state will need a math teacher, and you will kind of have your pick where you want to go and coach." And he was exactly right. So my mother's a retired math teacher, so I really got to follow in the footsteps of both of them. So neither one could say that I wasn't following them. And so, but I knew that it was. So I majored in math and also in education. So went through the whole student teaching and everything in college, and that's really a role that isn't taken very much anymore. And so, no, I majored in math and in education. So when I came out, I was ready to and certified to teach. So it was for sure purposeful. So when I talk to kids going into college now that are in it, that are wanting to come out and coach, I give them that same bit of advice. Yeah. Get into a critical teaching field, and then you're going to the ball is really going to be in your court. And it was. I had a quick story. I was at our job fair at Tarleton State, and it's when all the districts come around from the state and try to hire teachers and young teachers that are graduating that semester. So I was going to graduate in a month, but I'd already passed all of my exit exams and all that. So I was just waiting on to walk. And that was the first time in my life that I felt like a high dollar free agent. Like all these different districts were coming at me because here I was. Let's face it, I was a coach. I was in the critical teaching field. I was a minority. And so it really checked every single box that everyone needed. So I had districts offering me signing bonuses coming through it. Will you just sign an open-ended contract with us? So that part was really fun. I said, hey, it's not the way that I want it, but for one day I got to feel like, a high dollar free agent right now. And so
I love it. So talk about that. You get out of college. I assume you signed with one of those offers. Where'd you start?
So I started in Arlington, and I did. Arlington was there, and a lot of pieces that were there at this job fair wanted me to sign just an open, like, look, we will sign you today and guarantee you a job, and then, you come in and visit with us, and we'll find a place for you. Well, I didn't want to do that. I wanted to see where I was going. I was like, no, I'm not going to just sign open-ended. I want to, meet the school, the coaching staff, see what the positions are. And so I had decided that I'd gone up and I'd gone on a few different interviews. And by now I was tired. And I was like, okay, I have like these 10 more districts to talk with, and I really don't feel like going through this anymore. I'm going to narrow it down with one of the ones that I have now. And so I'd gone to DeSoto, and Coach Randy Rowe was the athletic director, and Ben Dowell was the head coach. And I liked it and really did. And I decided I was going to go to DeSoto. And the only thing was the next morning, Arlington ISD made me promise them that I would come interview with them. They said, just please don't sign with anyone before you come here. And I said, okay. So I told DeSoto that, I'm pretty much going to take this job, but I promised Arlington I would come to them tomorrow morning. And I just said, look, if they don't walk on water, then, and if it takes any time, I'll be calling you back to come sign a contract here with DeSoto. So I said, fine. And so the next morning, I remember I had an appointment at 11 o'clock at their HR building. By 11:20, I met with the principal and the head coach, and I had a varsity coaching job and algebra teaching job at Sam Houston. And it was like $8,000 more than it was at DeSoto, and the class schedule was perfect. And so I called DeSoto back, and I said, you remember when I said that the next job had to kind of walk on water? I said, I think Arlington just walked. They did. I said, I'm sorry, but what they offered was too good to turn down. And so I'm really thankful that I did that, because I think that everything that launched my career into where it is right now goes back to my start at Sam Houston, and I don't know that it would have worked out that way had I gone to a different place.
So talk to me about that first job at Arlington Sam Houston. What position do you coach? What was the rude awakening in that job?
Oh yes, my first year I was coaching varsity defensive tackles, and then I had a second sport of like softball, and I'm teaching algebra. And I was hired under Ken Ozee was the head coach. Yeah, and that's Kevin Ozee's dad, who's an AD at Burleson, and so Coach Ozee hires me, and it was a rude awakening. I mean, you learn really quickly how much you don't know, but I was with some really, really, really good people, and the school was just phenomenal, and the family culture there. We were all young coaches there, and then so after that first year, Coach Ozee retired, and Kenny Perry came on to take the job. And I didn't know Kenny. And he brought Scott Peach over to be the offensive coordinator, and I moved over to the offensive side. And that's where I really matured to at that point and learning the offensive side of the ball. But I think that starting on the defensive side helped me. And so in 2 years later, Scott Peach left and took the Arlington High head job, and I moved into the offensive coordinator role. And so you're just talking about a series of events. I say this to coaches a lot, that if let's say I wanted to go, and whenever you try to plan your career out, it just doesn't work the way that you that you ever think it's going to. It's really hard to map it out because so many other factors change. And so you could say that 3 years before that, I'm coaching defensive tackles. Way down the list, there's no way that if I'm trying to be an offensive coordinator, you think, well, I need to move and go someplace else. But you never know how things work out. And so I went over and then just kept working and kept learning. And like I said, got with some really good people and gained the trust of Coach Perry, and then was able to move into that position there. And then, I mean, it's 2 years after that and more that I'm interviewing for head jobs. So it's funny how that goes around. And I think it's just if you work and do things right and impress people, then you're able to move on up. But I learned so much at that school and in that position, and that I think that really laid the foundation for my coaching career to where it is right now.
Excellent. And you talked about the steps up to OC. Now take me stop by stop every position to now. Sure. Okay. So I coached varsity defensive tackles my first year, and then the second year I coached running backs, varsity running backs. And the third year I moved over to receivers, and I do that for 2 years, and the third and fourth year, and then coach. So I at the same time when I was doing that, I was the JV head coach, and I called the offense on the JV. And it was something that I kind of just took. Coach Perry wanted me to do it, but I kind of just took it and ran with it. And there's no better way to learn than really throwing yourself into the fire. And so I called the JV offense, and then on the varsity game day, I would be in the press box, and I was mic'd with Coach Peach, who was calling the varsity offense. So again, another way to really learn it by trade. I mean, learn it with experience and not read it. So you're involved with every single play call that's right there, and it just gives you that experience to see it and go. And then
like I said, suddenly Coach Peach pops up and goes to, in that fourth year, he goes to Arlington High as the head coach. And I'm sitting there, and Coach Perry comes to me and says, "Hey, you ready?" I said, "Well, yeah." And he said, "Well, you got it." And now I'm calling the offense on the varsity. So the good thing was having coached running backs, it allowed me to really be involved with the offensive line, because the running back position is involved with both the run game and the pass game. And the call, you have to understand up front. If you don't, I mean, it's really hard if you don't understand up front. So that allowed me to gain the knowledge of what we're doing up front. And then the receiver position gave me more experience outside with the combinations that we had. So I'd have the opportunity to, and then again, my very start was defensive line, which caused you to understand, to learn offensive line play. And right. So when it got time to call offense, I'd kind of touched each area that you needed to be experienced with. And then, so once I called for a year coaching the receivers, the next year I went to quarterbacks, because I wanted really there to be a direct link between me and the quarterback and what we were being taught. And so I moved to that position. So now that covered just about every position offensively that I had coached there at that point. And I think it made it even better to call offense, because you didn't have to go through anyone else to talk to the person who's going to touch the ball every play, right? So, and it worked its way through. But all of those things happened just from experience. Okay,
and then take me from there to where you are now.
Okay, now this is a bit of an odyssey here, so
that's okay.
I left. It would have been in like 2006. I left Sam Houston and thought it was just time to leave and make a change. And I went to Dallas Lincoln under Coach Jerry Sands, and he was looking for an offensive coordinator, and they were just coming off a really big year. And I went to Lincoln for a year, and really, really, really liked Coach Sands and what he did. And but I just stayed there a year, and then I came back to Arlington. The coaching aspect there at Lincoln was really good. Just the district and the teaching schedules and things really made it hard. And so I left and came back to Arlington. And I went to Arlington Seguin with Ricky Albus. And Ricky Albus was the head coach there. So I was there for a year with him and coached the quarterbacks. And just really was ready to get back to Arlington because I loved the setup. I was comfortable there. And after that year, Ricky Albus retired. So when Ricky retired, Kenny Perry had come back to Bowie. And so he called me, and then I met back up with him at Bowie for the next year. And so back together kind of with people I'd started with. And so here I am at Bowie for a year, and we have a really good year. And I think we lost in the third round to Wiley, and Wiley ended up going to the state championship. And so I get to that spring, and by this time I've interviewed for several head coaching jobs. Now, I've been a bridesmaid now several times, but was never a bride, right? And so I was kind of like, I'm just going to relax from that for a while, just kind of enjoy coaching. I just got married, and so we were in a good spot and just going to be comfortable for a while. And the head coaching job at South Oak Cliff opened up. And Kenny comes to me and goes, "Hey, what about this job? What about applying for the South Oak Cliff job?" And I said, "Look, I said, Kenny, I'm good. I'm gonna, not apply for a while, because 3 years before that, I had interviewed for the South Oak Cliff head job. I was the runner-up for that job. And so I said, Kenny, look, I'm really good. I don't want to. I'm just going to enjoy this for a while, like coaching here." And he goes, "No, I think you need to go look at that one. I think you need to apply for it." And again, I'm saying I really don't want to go through it anymore. I'm fine here. And he comes to me and he goes, "Hey, go apply for the job. Just do it." So I do. And I go in to do the interview, and I really took it from, you try really hard when you interview for a job to really answer questions the way that you think is right, and you really try to be impressive with every answer that you give, and you want to sound knowledgeable and experienced in this, and you really, really, really plan and how you're going to answer these questions, right? And so this last time, I don't know, have you ever seen the movie The Shawshank Redemption?
Oh, yes.
And so you remember Morgan Freeman, he's trying to get paroled. And the first few times he does it, he's answering the questions, yes, sir, no threat to society here. He's giving the standard answer of how they want, and they always deny him. And then the last time he goes in, he's just like, look, if you want to parole me, fine. If not, send me back. And they parole him. Well, that was really my attitude coming into this interview. It was like, hey, here it is. Here's who I am. Here's what I've done. And because in my mind, I had a good job. This is what it is. And I finally get a call back from a lady who's a principal there. It's a really, really good lady named Miss Regina Jones. And she says, she's just trying to figure out why you're not a head coach already. And I said, well, that's not up to me, unfortunately. And so it ends up calls me back, and they offered me the job, and then that started my head coaching career. So I was there for 3 years at South Oak Cliff, and in Dallas, and back home where the district that I grew up in, and then my dad had coached in for so long. So I coached there 3 years. We had it was soccer at that time was coming off of some. There was some controversy there with there was some titles they had to take back. There was some controversy that happened there within the program years before that, and so but had a lot of negative press. And she told me, she said, I want us back in the news, but I want us in the news for something positive. She said, I do not want us in the news negatively anymore. I said, yes, ma'am. And so we did. We had a good time there, and we won the first district title there, and that was with that new district when Alan Wilson had gone to Carter, once they had come down to 4A play and that. So anyway, so we were there for 3 years, and then I get a phone call from Garland and Dallas at this time. I loved soccer, I loved the kids, and I loved the community and the school. And I really did. The district at that time was really going through some turmoil, and it really made it hard every semester to put your athletic program together, as the upper administration had changed, and it really was not pro-athletic. And so I got a call from Garland ISD and Cliff Odenwald and Homer Johnson, and they said they had this job at Lakeview High School. They wondered if I wanted to come talk to them about it. And so I said, sure. So I went and met with them, and just for whatever reason, it felt like home. I mean, it felt good, and it was a pay increase. It was a significant pay increase, and I thought, why not? Let's take a shot at this. And so I took a job at Lakeview, and I really, really, and it was just the things that we didn't have in Dallas, meaning I had a full staff. I mean, your coaches, their teaching schedules were correct, and it was set before they started working, and you didn't have to worry about those things every semester. And so there was just a lot more stability. And so went there, I took that job, and I was there at Lakeview for 9 years. And again, loved Lakeview. I mean, loved it. Loved the school and the kids, the principal, administration. And so as we're coming up and we're getting to after the 9th year, and the same thing. It had been there 9 years. It went by really fast, but then you're like, it may be time to, you weren't just actively looking, but my eyes were not closed. And I'd gotten a call from Frisco ISD about this new school, and their athletic director, Coach Kirkendall, called me and see if I wanted to come talk about this new school that they're opening. I didn't know much about it, and so I went to talk with him, and looked like this could be a really good opportunity. And I'd never opened a new school before. Thinking about it, very few people get a chance to do that, and so I get to open a brand new school. And one thing you always want to do, because whenever you have to go in and take over a program, and especially one at like Lakeview where it had not been successful. Then there are many things and many habits that you have to change and that you have to get right in order to get it going. And you always says, man, if I was, you always say this as a coach when you go in and take over a place, and man, I wish I was here at the beginning. We would have set it up this way so that this wasn't. So here you are. You get a chance to be in at the beginning. It's a clean slate, and you get to set the foundation for the program. So why not? So we go and do it, and everything from the logo to everything is set the way that you get to do it. So that part's neat. Now, with that being said, I'll never do it again. It's a lot of work.
Right.
It's one of the coolest things that I did, but I will never ever do it again. And so, but it was fun. And then, so we had our very first year where we only had 9th and 10th graders.
Right.
And I was able to bring about 10 coaches with me from Lakeview that had been through before. And so that part made it fun because we all knew each other. We'd been together for a while. And our first year, we just played a JV season with the 9th and 10th graders that we have. And what we decided to do was, instead of make our 10th graders a JV and our 9th graders a 9th grade, because we knew the next year we were going to have to play varsity with no seniors. So we took our best 22 and made them our JV. Because we said that's going to be our varsity next year. And so they all played together, and we coached them like a varsity team. And I felt like that was kind of an advantage. So the next year, once we went to varsity, well, we've had these guys for a full year, and they were used to us. And, but still you have nobody on that team that's ever played a varsity football game.
Right.
So you're still nervous. So each week was an accomplishment. And we didn't know what to expect. We thought that possibly, hey, we think we have an outside chance to get into the playoffs. This was our thought, and because no team had ever done that before in their first year in Frisco. And they came in and talked to us. The district administration came and talked to us, and they were just like, look, guys, this is going to be really tough. Just hang in there. But this is going to be one of the toughest things you've ever done. But, hey, we're behind you. Well, we win the first game, we win the second game, and next thing we know, we're 9-1 at the end of the season.
Wow.
And people were like, were you expecting this? I said, no, we were not. But the kids just kind of kept coming back. So that was really, really fun and really magical time for the season. And we felt like because of that, again, those were with just sophomores and juniors, that we were going to have an opportunity to have a really special year this year.
Yeah.
And obviously we come back this year with that returning group and go to the state semifinals and just miss making the state championship game. So things just kind of work out, I think. I think you have to be, there were jobs in between there that I turned down that didn't feel right. And I think just as a coach, when they come along, you have to just trust your gut. And that was with some of the jobs that I turned down was just my gut didn't feel right about it. And I can say with South Oak Cliff, with Lakeview, and with Frisco Emerson, that each job at the end of it, my gut said, hey, this can be a good thing.
Yeah.
And it wasn't wrong. So when young coaches ask me sometimes, how do I, what do you think, or how do I go about choosing a job? And I can say, guys, at the end of the day, trust your gut. It's talking to you for a reason. And so.
Right on. So let me ask you this. You spent 9 years at Lakeview. That's enough time to see some of your athletes graduate, become parents, become workers.
Sure.
Talk about the relationships you've developed with some of the students.
Oh, absolutely. And even back from, like I said, from Arlington, I have kids that I coach now, that I coached, that are coaching now. That are well into coaching, and or that's doing other things. And I've had players be a first round draft pick in the NFL, and so often we kind of look at success. We measure it by being in this particular field of athletics, and they say, well, have you had any players that made it? And I say, yeah, I had a whole bunch that have made it. I don't. To me, making it is not making it in the NFL. I mean, while that's great, it's just making it in society. So there's a young man that I coached, and he went on to play at Tulane, and he graduated, got his degree from Tulane. He got hurt his junior year at Tulane and was not able to play anymore. But he graduated with a degree in computer science. And I remember when he was taking his first college visit, his first official visit, and I went with the college coach at the time to his house for his home visit. And I said to him, and sitting there with he and his mother, and so she's talking about on Friday going to go to fly out for this visit. And I can see that there's some concern. And I said to the mother, I said, well, if you need me to take him to the airport. And she goes, oh, please. She goes, Coach Miller, I don't even know what the airport is. And so you go from kids that have never been near an airplane before, to seeing where they are now, and they have families that they're raising, and you see that progression. Yeah. That's the thing that you're most proud of, that they now become responsible adults and have families and good fathers, good husbands, and that's the thing that you're most proud of. And when you get that message back from a kid or a call that just says, hey, Coach, I want you to know how much you meant to me, and I am here because of you. And as a coach, you don't think about that. You really don't think this because of you. You think that I saw something inside of you that I knew you had it. You had this inside of you. This is all because of you. It's not because of me. All I did maybe was point it. And so those are things that you're so proud of. I have a young man that I coached at Lakeview, and he is now an anchor on the I think it's the NBC affiliate in Nashville on the evening news. Jordan James. So he sent that to me last week, and I'm like, this is awesome. And he was an average player for us in high school, but was a great kid, and so all those things you're beyond proud of. Yeah. When you see these kids really develop and really come along, especially when you know where some of them came from. And I'll tell them a quick story, and this is it's indirectly to me. On Christmas Day, I was at my parents' house. My dad is 85 years old, and he coached for 34 years, and he started before he went to high school. He coached at Stockard Junior High. And so on Christmas Day, I was going through Facebook, and I had a message that was from, and I really don't look at it like that, so I hadn't noticed it. I had a message from a person that was not a friend of mine, and so I opened it, and the guy said his name was Mark Bowles, and he said that he looked me up because he was looking for my dad. And he said, I believe your dad coached me at Stockard Junior High in 1972. This would have been well before I was even born or even thought of. And, I mean, this is 51 years ago. And he says, I don't know where he is. He said, I'm not sure if your dad is still alive. I'm not sure. He said, but I want you to know what your dad meant to me. He said, my dad passed away. And so your dad stepped in and coached me. He said, and I still think about him all the time because of what he filled in my life at that time. This is over 50 years ago. Yeah. So I show it to my dad, and he remembers everything about the kid. And the guy sends the team picture from them in junior high from 1972. And it's my dad there, and he is looking at it, and he's naming the people on the roster. So I send it back, send him a picture of me and my dad. I said, yes, he is alive. He is right here. And so now we're trying to get those two together. But those are the things that I don't think there's any other business that can happen in. I think sports, just because of the time that we spend with the players.
Right on. And the flip side of relationships, let's talk about relationships with coaches you've worked for, you've worked with, that brotherhood that is so strong in Texas high school football.
Oh, yes, and that won't change. I talked about Coach Ozzie, giving me my first varsity job and my first job period. And Coach Ozzie is really the one that gave me the confidence that I could be a head coach. It was the first year, and we were going to a track meet or something, I think, and he pulls me aside outside of his car. I'll never forget it. He goes, "Hey," he goes, "you have what it takes to be a head coach at a very young age." And I hadn't thought about it until he said that.
Mm-hmm.
And at that moment, I began to look at things differently.
Yep.
And so Coach Ozie's always been close to my heart, and I became really close with his son, Kevin. And then Kenny Perry came after that. Kenny and I talk once a week. Even funnier than that, Kenny's now at coaching at Texas Tech and the special teams coordinator at Texas Tech. Well, I hired his daughter last year, Alexa, as one of our girls coaches at our school. And when that happened, but it was a no-brainer. But I knew Alexa when she was in middle school, as a kid. So, and Kenny and I, we still talk every week. And we'll talk. He'll call me before my games, or I'll call him before his. And we just talk. And a lot of times we talk about what we're about to face that week, or we'll talk about the fun times we had back at Sam Houston, and we get a good laugh out of things. We were all young. We all say, we shouldn't be allowed to coach anymore. Some of the things that we pulled at Sam Houston back in that time. And so, and then when you get together and you see coaches that you used to coach with or get around, I just believe there's no one better to hang out with than a bunch of coaches, because at some point you've all had the same struggle. You've all had the same challenges, and so and you've all had some of the same victories. And so to understand, what we all go through, and there's a personality that has to come along with that. The brotherhood is very, 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 very thick and very strong. I tell my wife, if you're ever in a town somewhere and you're broken down,
yep,
go find the head football coach. Go find their house, and it'll take care of you. I mean, that's how thick the brotherhood is here.
Yeah, and speaking of those coaches, let's shift gears to the THSCA and talk about their importance and I guess your experience with being president. Sure.
Well, I've always obviously known about the THSCA through my dad and known about the convention. I actually used to, as a kid in high school, I would work the convention. I used to work for Jugs and go demo the pitching machines and the football throwing machines. And I got paid for that. I'm like, I'm just having fun out here playing this machine every day. And but so I've always been familiar with it, and then getting into coaching, being involved with it. But even though you're a part of it, you still didn't quite understand everything that the association does.
Right.
And but getting elected to the board was a big deal, was a big accomplishment. At the time when I was elected to it, there hadn't been for a couple of decades, I think, and there'd only been, counting on one finger, any board members elected of color. And not that that wasn't anything that was intentional by the board or anything like that, but the process and how many that we had in the across the state, it made it difficult. So for me to be elected by my peers in that position really meant a lot, but also understood the responsibility. But once getting inside of it, you realize just how much the association does and just how important it is. For example, we take for granted here in Texas the way in which we do things, meaning every school in Texas has an athletic period.
Right.
And our coaches all the coaches are professionals. I mean, the coaches are teachers in the building for the most part, and they all coach or in the athletic period with kids. We have spring football. We have all these things, right, that really mirror what the collegiate level does. And when you're born and raised here like I am, you think that it's that way everywhere. But when you get in here, you realize we're a bit of an anomaly. Now, we're not even a bit. I mean, we're a unicorn if you compare us to the rest of the state. When I talk with coaches from the rest of the state, they're like, you have what? An athletic period? like during the school day? We're like, yeah, doesn't everybody? They're like, no. Your coaches all work in the building, where many of the other states, the coaches come from outside of the building. They're the policemen, or and we're like, no, we're professional coaches here. And then you realize we're the only place that does it like this. Yep. So then you say, why? Well, why does that happen? And one major reason, it's not because everyone here, the education system is governed by politicians. It is. It's governed by legislature, right? And what you find that most of them have not played a ball or thrown a ball or anything. And you would love to say that it's this way because all of our state politicians just love athletics, but that's just not the case. You get in and you realize that many of them will do whatever they need to do for $1, that everything has the price.
Yep.
And everything or whatever's going to get them elected.
Yep.
And this association, being as deep as it is and as strong as it is, has a really heavy lobbying power. And so when something comes up that tries to talk against that, when I got to Lakeview, the third year we changed principals. And this is what I mean here. So my principal comes in and he goes, Coach, he goes, athletics every day. The athletic period every day is really a problem. And I go, what do you mean? He says, what if we had athletics every other day? And I go, oh, wow. And he said, what would that do for you? And I said, are you being serious? He said, yes. I said, well, the first thing I would do is I would go back down to the coach's office and I would have a meeting and I would tell them all to apply for other jobs. Mm-hmm. And then I will start looking for the next head job. And he laughed and he goes, are you serious? I said, totally. I said, that destroys the school and destroys the athletic program.
Yep.
And he goes, okay, well, I'm not doing it yet. I said, well, I need to know if you want to do that. The next day he comes back to me and he goes, hey, I need to talk to you. He goes, please don't repeat what I said yesterday. I said, why? He said, I asked the superintendent about that. He said, the superintendent told me, do not ever say that again if you don't want to get us all fired. And so they realize, but the reason that happens greatly is because of this coaches association. If that happens, if this state ever tried to take that away, then the political power behind this association, because we have so many members, 30,000 members, are going to come down on it. And that's not what anyone wants. So the reason that we are really exclusive in Texas with how athletics is run, you should hear it. College coaches love coming here to recruit. They hate going to other states. They'll say, we love coming here because we know we can come to the building. We know we can meet with the coaches. We know the kids are going to be working out. We know that it's very similar to us. But it's that way, and because it's this association is intentional about keeping it that way. And without that, those things would have been gone a long time ago. And so getting inside, you realize just how much that we have to do every year to keep these things the way that we know they are and for what's best. So to get in and see their inner workings, and the Coaches Association has the motto of helping coaches help kids, and I can say for a fact that every single thing that we do, the question is asked: is this going to help coaches help kids? And if so, then they're going to be all systems go behind it.
Right, and it's not just one.
No,
sport.
Not at all. No, not at all. And when the association began, it began as the Texas High School or the Texas High School Football Coaches Association. That's what it was. Right. And so now, as that has moved on and changed the Texas High School Coaches Association, and you have to understand, it was the Texas High School Football Coaches Association. That's what it was. And so when it changed its name, you're still coming from under the umbrella of being the Football Coaches Association. And many people still see it that way. But there has been a concerted effort to really erase that mindset. Now, is football still the center of it, the nucleus? Without question it is. It is at every school because it is still Texas. But to see the efforts that have happened here, meaning from our coaches convention, where the number of lectures outside of football for non-football sports, for female sports, rival any other convention they can go to. And also adding members on our board that are non-football coaches was important, because we have to hear from coaches that are not football coaches to know what needs to be done to help that. And that's from Joe Martin and Glenn West. I mean, for them to get on and say that if we're going to be called, and I'm going to pretty much quote them, if we're going to be called the Texas High School Coaches Association, then we have to represent all Texas high school coaches and not just football. And understand there's kind of it's still Texas in that point. There's kind of some old heads that didn't like to hear that, that didn't want to hear that. And I think it took a lot of courage by them to accept that and admit that we need to do better. But it's only made all of us stronger. Libby Pacheco, she made a statement one time, and I've never forgotten it. She said, if I have a candle and this candle is burning bright, and I take the flame and I light another candle over here, well, my candle does not shine any dimmer.
Right.
It's now just brought light to another area also. And that's all that we've done. Nothing's been taken away from football here in this state by giving some of these same opportunities to other sports. And at the end of the day, it helps coaches help kids. We talked earlier about with players and those players that we've seen go on to be successful and outside of their sport. But sports has been the thing that led them to the area that they're in. It's been the avenue they've used for higher education, right? And so those opportunities need to be there for students other than football players and other than male players. It needs to be the same thing for all of our high school athletes. So doing that, help more coaches, help more kids, and it has only made our association stronger.
I love it. Coach Kendall Miller, gosh, I want to thank you so much for so many things, for all the work you've done with all these kids in helping them become adults, but also the work you've done with THSCA, and of course, least of which is probably sitting down and talking to me.
No, I really loved it. I really appreciate it, you having me on.
And of course, I want to thank our guest, but I also want to thank you. I want to thank you for giving me what I consider the most valuable thing you can give, your time and your attention. And I know you don't do it to hear me. You hear it for the great messages provided by the THSCA. And hey, if you'd like to associate your company with the THSCA and the Coach's Call podcast, limited sponsorship opportunities are available. You can reach out to me, Chris Daly, 713-269-4620, or head over to my website, freshmediaworks.com. Once again, thank you so much for supporting Texas high school coaches. Please share this show out to everybody you can so that we can help share these important messages. Thanks again, and we'll catch you next time on The Coach's Call.